Fenna, we've just had a really interesting question land in our through our webpage today, and it goes along the lines of this, Fenna. Someone's asking, what is the difference between what they call extra services and additional services when it comes to permanent aged care?
Yeah, good. This is a really interesting question because it's really not that clear in that a lot of the services sort of cross-pollinate in both additional and extra services. So probably the one thing that you need to come back to in the first place is that there's a standard of care and services that any resident of a approved residential care provider needs to meet, and that's covered under the standard fees and charges of residential care that will be spelled out in your agreement. So this is stuff that's additional and on top of, and usually falls in the realm of those hotel type services, such as like a better standard of food or size of room and things like that. But there's a couple of differences between extra services and additional services that's slightly helpful to point out. Firstly, extra services can only be provided by a provider that's authorised to deliver extra services. So that will be evident on their agreement, in their advertising. You'll know that they're an extra services provider. So that means that the Aged Care Commissioner has approved them to offer extra services. And it's usually around the standard of accommodation, or a glass of wine with your meal or something like that. There should be that should be noted in the contract, and it should be discussed with you before you enter care. So it shouldn't be something that you don't know you're getting. It should be clear. Additional services are services that can be charged potentially in the same sort of vein, so better food or entertainment or that kind of thing, but are probably a little bit more flexible. Again, you shouldn't be being charged it without knowing about it, so there should be a discussion, and you should feel like you're getting better value, I suppose, for having that extra service. So often we see it in things like, it's often presented as a bundle. It might be, you get Foxtel to your room and a landline and maybe a couple of things like that for X amount per month, whereas everyone else in the facility only gets access to Foxtel in the communal living room. See sort of the subtle differences. It might be that your linen is 1,000 thread count linen as opposed to the standard sheets. So all residents need to be provided with sheets. If you want nicer sheets, you need to pay for those sheets, right? So yes, it's subtle. It can be discussed at any time. So it's not something that's set in stone. So once you agree to it, that's it, and you're forever paying it. It's something that you can choose to review at any time with your provider. And again, there should be some documentation between yourself and the provider about what it is that you're getting, and why, or not, as the case may be. But it is quite grey because there's a lot of variables in what you might consider essential care and service and what your provider is saying they need to cover under the standard. So it all comes back to the Aged Care Act and the Quality of Care Principles, and that's how it's decided. But it's not black and white, and it's something that can get really confusing, and it's certainly something that we here at Family Aged Care Advocates can help you with if you're unsure whether or not you're getting a good deal or not, as the case may be.
Right, good answer. So in other words, really important to understand that those things we spelled out in your residential agreement, and also understand that they're open to negotiation with the provider, and if people want a bit of a hand with that, someone like us can step in and stand up for people and have those discussions. Yeah?
Yep.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Whenua.